It was really fun to talk with you when you were building the program for this concert. I enjoyed our conversations, and I enjoyed learning about the thought process you applied as you were creating this narrative. And I'm curious, would you explain to me your ideas about the arc of your program and how you came to assemble it in such a beautiful way?
Well, I appreciated when you told me, if you'll do this, you can do anything you want to do. And so I came back with you and said, okay, I want to do the Berlioz Requiem. And you didn't like, you didn't like that idea. It's only 500 performers or so. So, but I am continually asked in life, and I don't know whether you are or not, but people, for some reason, a question people always like to ask me is, what is your favorite work?
Yeah.
And I purposely won't answer that question because I don't have a favorite work. And I tell people that in a conductor's career, whatever you are doing at that moment has to be your favorite work. And even if you commission a piece you don't like, you have to turn it, and then what you get, you never know when you commission. And I've commissioned a lot. You never know where you're going to get. And I've gotten some extraordinary pieces, but then there are other pieces I get and say, oh, my Lord, where am I going to go with this? But you have to turn it into your favorite piece. And so I thought about, okay, this is my last concert. What do I want? What piece do I want to do? And as I thought about it, I decided to go a completely different direction. I went back and reviewed the repertoire, all of the concert repertoire programming I've done over the years. And what I wanted to do for this concert was to take things that I love, but to check in my records and my remembrances from the past, works that also our audience loved. And I like programming eclectic concerts. You have to put form to it, but I like eclectic concerts. And I wanted to make a statement, to make the unifying force of this concert, the effect music has on our lives. What is wonderful about choral orchestral music is that we get to, one of the things that's wonderful about it, is that we get to include poetry as part of the artistic experience. And the composer reacts differently in the work, or creates differently, because he is trying to express the poetry. Whereas a symphonist, when you're dealing with symphony, you're dealing with sound and structure and sonorities. But the composer that does choral orchestral music is dealing with human emotion through the poetry that is written. So we get all of this music where the poet expresses the feeling of what it's like to have music in our lives. And so the unifying factor in this concert is music with poetry, most of it, that is about the experience of having music in our lives. And I want the audience to feel when they leave, how can I live a life without music? That's the whole concept of the programming. In structuring the program, I'm covering 4 centuries. I start with British music in the 20th century. Then I go back and go 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, 21st century. So we're covering 4 centuries of music. But there is a unifying factor in text and in the way, and in compositional thought. The thing that I try to do, and have always tried to do in my programming, is that I program the concert as though I'm composing a large symphony. So you take works, what will make a nice prelude of the work, of the program, what will be a good second movement, and if the prelude is fast, the second movement needs to be slow. Going back to Mozart's symphonies, it's fast, slow, minuet, fast. And so using that concept of structure, you get a lot of color change. I program it with two pieces in the first half, the first and second movement of the symphony, and then the third and the fourth movement. Each section has a unifying factor within itself. So I think I've structured something that will give the audience about as wide a spectrum as you can feel or experience in sonority color, in poetry, and in compositional style, and just in emotion. And I think it's a really wide range that we're offering. I think the audience will go out smiling. It's not all happy music. You can't always have. I like a slow movement of symphony isn't necessarily happy, but it is all positive music. In the end, it's positive, and it's a positive about the art of listening to music. Does that make any sense, Rob?
It makes complete sense. And I just like to say that the way you put this extraordinary program together is individual. It is a quintessential John Alexander program, the programming that I love, the programming that's informed my career. And I am always inspired by the depth to which you create relationships across centuries and between composers, conversations between the pieces. I think the audience will come and have a profound experience. And I hate to tell you, it's a lot more than just about music. This concert is about a life's journey through artistry. And I'm so excited to share that with you.
Well, thank you. I've always considered one of the greatest compliments I've gotten from different ones of our donors and our subscribers and our audience. And this statement years ago from a gentleman who said, you know something, I sang in a choir when I was a kid. And that's how I got into liking choral music. But I liked the experience of it. But then I've learned through listening to Pacific Chorale that it's also wonderful to listen to choral music. And he said, you know, you put together programs and there are composers on there that I have no idea who they even are. And even though I've always tried to do one major work a year, a Brahms Requiem or a beautiful Mozart Mass or a new 20th century work, the small works are an essence in my programming. And he said, what I love about it is that I trust you. He said, I look at the program and say, should I go that? I don't know a single composer on here. I know none of these pieces. Should I stay home? No. He said, because I come because I know I can always trust you. And that to me is the greatest compliment, that I can program things that are unique, that people don't know, but to have the performance reach somebody still so that they will come back and listen for more new things they never heard before. So thank you for the compliment.
Well, and I think the way you approach a program, it's you put on your composer hat. You're also a composer. And I can see and feel the art of composition in the way you program repertoire. Would you say that's true?
I think that's very true. I consider myself a C-class composer, not in any way as a composer, but my experience in composition and my experience as a child in composing with the aid of my dad and my years in the Columbus Boy Choir School, where they taught us composition, 9, 10, 11, 12, I was composing music. But you look at music in a different way through that composing experience. And so I think it's the study I've done as a composer, I use continually when I build programming, or have throughout my life, and how I build a program. So yes, it's a very strong component. And I encourage everybody to try, every musician to try composing, because you look at music in a different way when you make an attempt, whether it's just to compose for you and to hide in your desk drawer. It's an experience that is vital, I think, to being able to conduct well, to be able to lead well, and to see musical structure as you conduct.